This is the Doing Scary Things podcast. I'm Katie. I'm a veteran photographer, a serial entrepreneur, an aspiring author, and a relentless optimist. I'm a slow-talking, deep thinker from the Appalachian Mountains.
I'm Anna. I'm a prodigal musician, an accidental psychotherapist, and I'm living life mostly by experiment and endless curiosity. I'm a redheaded speed talker from a Midwestern farm town.
The purpose of this podcast is to talk to people who are doing some pretty scary things in their life about what it takes for them to push past fear and keep themselves going every day.
We'll also unpack the vulnerable things we're pursuing in our own lives and hopefully offer encouragement to you wherever you are on your journey.
Man, that was brilliant.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Doing Scary Things podcast. We're so happy that you chose to join us again this week. Today on the podcast, we are interviewing a friend of mine named Justin Farrey. Justin and I grew up in the same hometown of Erwin, Tennessee, and I've known him for a really long time. And one day recently, he told me he had a secret goal of being on a lot of podcasts. So here we are. We really think you're going to enjoy today's episode as we talk about his journey as a single parent, the unique way he entered the healthcare world, and as always, we talk about our interesting views of creativity and how it pertains to every single person on the planet.
We are so excited to have you on our podcast, and especially because you have a lifelong dream of being on as many as possible.
We just like making people's dreams come true.
We
That's
do.
Basically.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a 38-year-old divorced cat dad, father of two.
You've got your
Cat
bio
dad.
down.
That's the best.
That pickup line has never worked.
How many cats?
I have two cats. Too many.
How long have you had the cats? Like, how long have you been devoted to this?
I think I've had one cat like 4 years. And then I've had the other cat like a year and a half. Somebody threw it out in front of me. And I was so mad because I like busted my tail getting work done all day so I could go ride my bike. And I had like an hour just to ride, just to get my 20 miles in. And I'm riding over Buffalo Mountain. And this car pulls over and throws this cat in front of me.
That's insane.
It ruined my whole ride. Stupid cat.
Still ruining.
I feel like there's so many existential parts of that, though. Like, you can't just be like, this cat isn't for me. Like, it was thrown to you.
It wasn't thrown at me. I definitely rode past it and then I was like, God, I gotta go get this cat.
If it's still there on the way back.
No, I mean, I just rode like 10 seconds past it. I was like, I'm not doing it. And then I was like, I'm doing it. Here we go.
Then it was like,
It was
you were like, oh,
pathetic.
okay.
It was like, its eyes were all goopy and had like diarrhea dried down its legs.
oh.
Very sick
That
cat.
sounds amazing.
So you rescued the
I
cat.
stuffed it in my cycling jersey and rode 4 miles back home.
Oh.
You could add that to your bio, though, that, like, not only cat dad, but cat rescuer.
Yeah.
Not a humanitarian, but like an animalitarian. I don't know.
You could be in those Sarah McLachlan commercials.
I hate those commercials.
That could be you.
No, I can't participate in that. What else?
What else?
I've got two boys, 16 and 12, and they're good kids.
Okay, I have to interject. This is another fun story. So I met Dan the day Jude, your oldest son, was born. Isn't that crazy? So it's crazy to see pictures of him.
Yeah.
And he looks like basically an adult.
I mean,
Yeah.
he is, yeah.
That's crazy.
He's like the personification
Of your
of
relationship.
how long you've
Of our
been married.
relation-
Your marriage can drive.
Right. It's a teenager. So 2 kids. What's that been like?
It's been wild. I grew up like a very strong Judeo-Christian background, and marriage and family was always very important to me. In fact, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I always just knew like that's what I wanted. And got married at 19, like super Southern thing to do, and then had a kid like almost 2 years later. One more day would have been a 2-year anniversary. So
Oh, wow.
I was 21 and turned 22 like a couple weeks later. So yeah, you just make it up as you go. Hang on. Try not to ruin anyone's life. So in May, we went to New York City and rode in the 5-borough bike tour where they shut down city streets and you ride through all 5 boroughs of New York. They shut down 40 miles in New York City.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
It was fantastic. It was 30,000 people do it, and they had never been to New York before. Only been one time, and so it was great. Like we're at like maturity level and the things. It's fantastic.
As they get older and become adults, just the playing field gets leveled, and you can relate to each other. It's like everyone catches up.
Yeah, I think so, and I mean, I really like them. And we have the same interests, so that helps. I mean, I feel like...
It's very fortunate.
It is. It's very fortunate. Like, some parents don't have a lot in common or don't, like, connect or relate. I think we're kind of at the spot, though, like, where it's gonna change. Like, they're gonna start growing away.
And I'm curious if you came up with it, but you do, like, these bike rides, right? And then you stop at, like, different places and get, like, slices of pizza? Is that what you do?
That's all me, yes. Yes.
Were they always
into that? It's like a pub
that?
crawl, but for pizza. And you do it on a bike.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Do they love it?
Yeah, they like it. But Jude's so sensible. He's always like, we don't need to get that much pizza. Or like, we don't. I'm like, come on. Like, you're 13, you're 14, you're 16. Like, this is what I want to do. We're doing it. We usually, like, the most that we've done it has been on Father's Day, And so they're like, oh, I don't want to go bike riding. He's like, I don't care. It's Father's Day. Get the bikes on the car. Let's go. No one asked you.
It's not an option today.
The local high school has mountain biking, and
whoa,
no way.
Yeah, there's the second year they had it. We did it last year, and the youngest one's old enough to do it, but he didn't want to do it because anytime the 3 of us go mountain biking together, like, I don't know what I'm doing mountain biking. I don't have any experience, and we got like 3 different levels, and we're out, and I'm like trying to give tips to him, and like, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm getting frustrated because he's whining and we're all sweaty and hot, like somebody wrecks. And so I told him, I was like, listen, you're going to have to be on the mountain biking team. And he got so emotional, started crying, 12 years old. I'm like, I'm making you ride bikes with your friends. This is not something, I can't believe you're upset about this. Are you kidding me? And he just didn't want like the competitive aspect of it. I said, it's not going to be like when we go, you're going to be like riding with your people on age. You're riding with a coach who knows what they're talking about. It's going to be, I'm going to be riding with a different group. So after the first time, he loved it. And a lot of stuff we do is like that, like twist their arm and they're like, oh, this is really fun.
That's awesome. Okay, so what do you do in your day job?
I am a registered nurse, and I work at the Mountain Home VA.
Oh, cool. How do you like nursing?
I love nursing. The VA is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely love nursing. I worked at AT&T for 9 years. Like when my wife got pregnant, I needed insurance, and I started working a call center job and then moved over to sales and did sales for 6 years. And I tried very hard not to blow my brains out. It was terrible. And God, man, that really put a hate for corporate America deep in my heart. Like,
yeah,
I just can't stand it. But I also absolutely love like being able to clock out and go home and not take anything with me.
Right.
Which is the opposite of you two, I guess, right? Like on the clock all the time.
Nursing too, I would imagine. I mean, is it hard to separate?
Oh, no.
No?
I find it very easy. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but I feel like I work hard to think about what my patients are going through. And so, when they see me, they're at their worst. And so if they're short or if their family is grumpy or, it's not me. I mean, they're sick in the hospital,
Mm-hmm. You have like this whole context to let that stuff roll off so it doesn't stick to you.
I do think working customer service helped with that. I mean, a lot of...
I would imagine.
Though a lot of the staff, or some staff that I've worked with before, just like, they don't relate to that at all. They don't think about that at all. And they get real upset when they're like, can you believe this person talked to me? Yeah, they just had a heart attack, right? Like,
yeah.
They're under a little stress.
Yeah, like, it's kind of understandable, actually.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so nursing wasn't your first thing.
Right.
Walk us through kind of the thought process of how you landed on nursing.
My wife at the time went to LPN school, and it was a 12-month program, but before she got out, they had a job fair, and they had like, 7 different job offers before. She hadn't even graduated. Zero experience, zero real-world knowledge. And I am, going to work at AT&T every day thinking like, they're going to come in here and fire me at the drop of a hat and hire some 18-year-old monkey who's going to do like a better job than me and pay them way less, like they wouldn't hesitate. So I wanted a job where people wanted me more than I want them. And nursing seemed like that. So that's like the main motivator for me to get into.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, because that's a little bit of a shift from just a means to an end. Like it sounds like nursing, I mean, sure, it still pays your bills and everything, but there's something more intrinsic about that was appealing to you. Like you learned that from your AT&T experience that I don't really want it to just be that. It would be great if it could be that and more.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely didn't want to be like a cog in some kind of money funneling corporate thing where just give rich people more money. And I guess in a way, other places I've worked in nursing, I've done that, but at least I got to help people along the way, I guess.
Right.
At least we get to make people better. I just like squeaked out like a gen ed degree, interdisciplinary studies with a concentration in speech and political science. It sounds so much better than gen ed degree. But that's what it was, essentially. So I had to go back and just take a couple of prereqs to apply to get into nursing school. And that was very hard because I don't have a scientific background. Speech and political science, all that was all theory. So it was not.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I'm not a good student at all.
So yeah, was there a part of you that was like, I might not be able to do this? Like, I'm not sure how this is going to go?
It beat the alternative, which was, just find another job, like doing what I was doing at AT&T or continue working sales and doing that. It was very scary. Yeah.
How'd you get through it?
Luck? I don't know. Just put your head down and go.
You tried. I mean, I
did. I mean, I definitely tried. Epitome of mediocrity, I guess. I don't know. I just put my head down and did it. Once I got accepted in the program I got accepted into, you just took like one class first semester, second class the second semester, and then you went full-time for 2 years. So I went to Milligan College, which is where Katie went. Go Buffaloes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I feel like it wasn't until my third semester through there, the end of my third semester, that I finally figured out how to study. Even that was a big challenge.
That's interesting to me too, because one of my jobs when I was in undergrad was to teach people how to study. And I think a lot of people don't realize that it's really a skill that you have to learn, like people don't just naturally know how to study necessarily. But it sounds like you were willing to take on and master a new skill to get through that, which I think is really cool and speaks a lot to your motivation and kind of the value of doing it.
That's really interesting. I wish I had someone teach me how to study a lot earlier. It would have been a different world,
Right? It's like good to know that it's a learnable thing. And there are lots of different ways to do it.
And it's okay that like you don't know how to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and that's something we talk about all the time, like across all fields, like no matter what it is. I've been a photographer for 15 years and people will say things to me like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, I almost flunked out of photography classes in college. Like I was terrible when I started, So that's so cool to hear you say like, yeah, I wanted to go into this field and I saw the things it could do for me and my family, but I had to learn not only the skill that I was learning, skills, but I actually had to learn how to get through college also.
Yeah.
Like, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
I really didn't have any other choice once I started, failure was not an option because Milligan private school is so expensive. And I had a scholarship through a local hospital. And so they paid for most of it. So I had to.
That's amazing.
I think that mindset's really important too because you say, well, I didn't have a choice. Failure was not an option, but you chose to see it that way, And it's like, okay, if failure is not an option and that's not a choice that you're considering, what deep well of sort of effort and energy do you have access to when that's your view of things? Like there is no not finishing this. There is no not doing this. So what am I going to do to figure it out?
How
that's really powerful, I think.
Well, and also just, you could have said like, I'm not good in school. Like I'm not good in science. Like I can't do this, and lived your life like believing that and thinking that instead of saying, okay, I'm going to use what I have, start where I am, like figure this out,
Yeah. Yeah, 9 years of working a terrible job will motivate you.
Yeah.
It was a great job for the time. I slam it, but...
No, but 9 years seems like a long time, but there's people who work jobs much longer.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who wish they'd only stayed 9 years,
Right.
They want the next 20 of those back.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you were doing a job you hate for a year, it's time.
How old were you when you went back to school, and how old were your kids at that point?
I started taking prerequisites in 2007, so I was 27. I got into nursing school 29, and that means it should have been like 7 and 3.
So was there ever a part of you that was like, why would I start now type of thing? Or were you like, because you'd been in that job, you were super motivated?
I don't ever think I thought like it's too late to start this. I feel like I've got to figure this out and finally get a career. I hate to say like a real job. I don't want to talk to people bad about people that, enjoy that and make that their career. But that's kind of the way I felt like. I felt like I was still searching to try and find what I really wanted to do. And really had been that way since I graduated high school. Just hadn't found anything that spoke to me and I wanted to do professionally.
Cool. So yeah, and you said like, you sort of chose nursing because of the practical reasons. You just alluded to the fact there must have been something there that you were at least thinking, I think I would really enjoy this. I would enjoy helping people. So how did it become that, or did it?
Absolutely. I always wanted some type of career where I was going to be doing that, serving in the Army. And then after that, I attempted to get into the local police department a couple of times, a couple of years when they were hiring. And then all of the customers that liked me and came back to me, were all people that I'd helped, not people that I'd sold stuff to.
Mm.
That's cool.
That's powerful.
I had a lady come in my store and talk to my manager, and she was brought to tears by how I helped her.
That's awesome.
It's something.
If you can help people.
Yeah.
At AT&T.
I know.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Maybe she was just being dramatic, though. Come on.
No. I'm going to vote that she wasn't, because who wants to talk to a manager just to be dramatic?
Dramatic people.
That's true.
Well, and here's the thing, like you said, we're not harping on people who work in call centers. We're not it's like, we're not looking down on that. But, and again, another point of this is like, use your gifts, like use what you have, and only you can uniquely do in those situations. So it sounds like even in that situation that wasn't, super exciting to you or perfect for you, like you were still doing what you were really good at there. And so, and it was rewarding. It was at least rewarding for other people. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I talk bad about it, but like I said, it was a good job at the time for where I was at.
Yeah. It sounds like it just gave you, for better or worse, also a lot of clarity about what part of that job actually did speak to you. But that was like the minority part of what you did, right? So getting to do more of that in a different setting.
Your manager's saying, like, you're talking to this person too long. Like, why? What are you all doing? Like, well, she brought in 6 months worth of bills and I had to explain it to her. She's like, you have sales goals you're supposed to be meeting. I'm like, oh, gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're talking about her family, you know? Like, I'm building a relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Priorities.
Well, talk to us about your current career in nursing. What has been challenging? What's been rewarding? Are you happy you chose it?
I love it. I absolutely love it. So I've been doing this about just over 6 years, and I've worked in several different departments. I started out on a cardiac step-down unit for CHF, congestive heart failure. So people not sick enough to be in the ICU, or people just healthy enough to get out of the ICU, they would come to my unit. And we would really, it was a cardiac floor, but we would get catch-all stuff. I mean, I would get people who were on dialysis. I would get people with GI bleeds, or, overdoses, all sorts of stuff. We didn't get traumas. That was nice. Not a ton.
That was nice.
It was. Well, with broken bones, it's a whole different thing. I feel like there's always something you can do when the heart starts going wrong. I know what to do. We can work it out. I had a very specific instance in nursing school that kind of laid the foundation for how I wanted to be when interacting with students. We can go back and kind of skip around this, but I remember walking into the neonatal and intensive care unit when I was a student. There was, it was a locked room. You had to get buzzed in, and it was wintertime, and we were all wearing coats and backpacks, and they knew we were there because they let us in, so 5 students walk in, and it's just a big room. It's not like a traditional hospital floor. They just have everybody in incubators. And so we just kind of like stepped in and shuffled to the side and watched the madness. And we probably stood there for 15 or 20 minutes before somebody said, okay, put your stuff down over there. Let's go. Come stand over here. We knew we weren't going to get to do anything. We're not going to, hold a intensive care baby or anything. You're not going to do anything. So that's fine.
Yeah, you're just observing.
But I just stood there the whole time. I was like, this is a waste of my time. Like, this is ridiculous. They know we're here and they're just ignoring us. Fine. So I make it a point when I see someone new, I see students come on the floor. As soon as they hit the floor, I grab them and just get them going. Put your stuff down. You here, you there, you with me. Let's go. I really enjoyed having students or or training brand new nurses that had no medical background. That's how I went into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you have like a special empathy for those people because you were in their shoes. And like you said, you didn't even have a scientific background before that. So it probably felt very much like a fish out of water.
Yeah, any healthcare background at all. Do you know what really shocked me about nursing? Is how many naked people you see all day.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
Is that a reward or a challenge?
It is so bad.
Not like the movies, huh?
No. I can count on one hand how many people that I thought, oh, okay, this is, I'd like to see them naked. Here we are. 6 years, less than 5 people.
You kept track, though.
It is what it is.
But that's such a vulnerable time for them.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I think it's cool that you sort of found a teacher within yourself and all that too. Like that's, you didn't go to school to be a teacher, but here you are guiding and teaching people, and that's like really rewarding in and of itself.
Yeah, that's kind of nursing though, because you're always going to be teaching. That's just interacting with patients, and they tell us that up front.
Yeah.
We learned that over and over again in school. We learned over and over, they told us right up front, they said after 3 years of working on the floor, then you'll be a good nurse. And I really felt like that was true, After doing it for about 3 years, then I was coming to work saying, okay, I can do this. I'm not going to really screw up bad.
Well, it's really interesting that they tell you that it is going to take 3 years, because I was actually going to ask. So, like with a lot of artistic work, we talk about it all the time because one of the biggest frustrations I feel like is, we can't just go to college and get a degree or a certification. It's like these skills you're learning and then you're kind of just having to figure out on your own, like how to make money and how to do it. And there's all this feeling of like, I'm not good enough. Why would I call myself a fill in the blank, like there's so much struggle. And so like when you finished college and got the degree and got the job, did that make you feel ready? Or were you just like, what am I doing?
I think that doing creative work is the most terrifying thing in the world to me because I don't feel like I'm creative at all. Someone who puts their livelihood into it, to me, that's terrifying. So I can't even comprehend like how to apply that to my life. And then even if you're not creating, but you're doing small business, to me, that's so scary. I mean, having all of it on you sounds terrifying. And I guess, the flip side of that is like, you don't have to listen to anyone else, right? Like you get to call all the shots. You get to make the decisions. No one's telling you can't go on vacation then, right?
Right.
It's definitely a trade-off.
You don't have to call the shots. or you don't get, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say the both sides of the coin. And
absolutely, yeah. No, like I get to clock out and go home and let everyone else work with the problems, and I get to leave it behind.
How I was trying to say it was, you get to make all the decisions, but you have to make all the decisions.
Absolutely.
That's what I was trying to say.
There's been so many times where I'm like, I just want a boss to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I get the flip side of that. Call it an easy button or whatever, but I'm like, just give me a task list. Like, I don't want to make this decision.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying too, I think we can relate on this also from the standpoint of working in like a helping profession. And when you come out of school, like, I wonder if this was the same thing for you when I graduated. And, was officially qualified to start doing therapy and counseling, I really just felt like by the time I graduated, okay, great. Now I finally have an idea of how much I still don't know and how much experience I totally don't have but wish I had. That whole imposter syndrome thing where you're more qualified than you've ever been, but you're more aware of how not ready you actually are. Like, did you experience that?
100%.
Yeah.
And people suffered because of it, like making mistakes in healthcare.
Right.
Like I definitely made errors and cost people, not like cost people, but like.
You killed people.
Yeah. I killed 7 people. It's not true.
But that's not while you were
That
there.
is not true at all.
You're not an angel of death. Okay, great.
I am not. No, but in 2016, I believe Harvard released a study where they drilled down on death certificates to determine what people were dying from.
Ooh.
And they found that the third leading cause of death in America is medical errors.
Sobering.
And it is for me, absolutely. It's not an option, on the death certificate. You can't check that. So you have to just like pour through charts and documentation and figure that out. That's terrifying to me. I talked about that every day. Anyone at work that would listen, I was just like, guys, what are we doing? It's obviously you think like people are paying attention and when they're taking care of sick people, but obviously they're not. Or they could be doing a better job,
That's fascinating because, okay, what I just heard was you sit here and tell me how scary my job is. and I mean, for real, like this is a conversation. Even just say, I feel like I have many jobs, but just say within wedding photography, right? Like people are always saying to me, like, that's so stressful. I don't know how you do that. Like you could screw this day up. And it's 100% true. And it absolutely is stressful and terrifying. But at the end of the day, like, I don't have somebody's life in my hands.
Right, they're still married,
it's not that level.
Like, there was other people taking photos, I'm sure. We got some cell phone
right.
photos.
Everybody had their cell phone. It's fine.
Documented.
Just kidding. Just kidding, clients. Yeah.
At the end of the day. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of systems in place to prevent medical errors or a lot of doing things by established practices, with scientific result, just standards of care, things like that. So as much as we can, we've tried to eliminate that, but obviously we're not doing a very good job. The story that I heard that was talking about that article said that when there's a plane crash, for one of the major public carriers, so it's not like private jets or something like that. An investigation is done, a report gets typed up, and it's issued to every pilot at every major carrier. Here's what happened. Here's how they reacted. Here's how that didn't help. Here's what they should have done.
Right.
Be safe. But whenever there is a medical error made, then, the first thing that happens is everybody lawyers up and then you sign non-disclosure agreement. So even if a doctor or nurse wanted to say, here's what I did, don't be like me, you couldn't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah. A lot of times they just can't.
Yeah. I have 2 or 3 stories that I tell. I've probably trained about 20 brand new nurses. And I have 2 or 3 stories that I always tell of me screwing something up. And so like, look, the moral of the story is, do this thing. Pay attention here. Pay attention there. Yeah. No one died.
That's cool. No one died yet.
Yeah. There's still time.
I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, to go back really quick to one thing that you said. So I do have this theory that everybody is in fact creative, not just people who do artistic jobs.
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced what now?
That everyone is creative. I've heard you say that several times. When you were interviewed on Raging Lady Boners, you were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm writing a book about it because I do get told a lot by people who are not artists that they don't think they're creative, but I see evidence of it everywhere. So are there any things of your job that you think require creativity, or are you just a hard no?
I definitely will disagree, with myself there and say that, while I'm not creating art or the creative problem solving in nursing is you do that every day. So I was thinking about that because I knew you were going to ask me that.
Well, would it surprise you to know that if you actually look up the definition of creativity, it is actually solving problems?
Well,
and it's, there is scientific evidence that points to, some people can solve problems quicker and maybe have a higher level of creativity, and is that something you can use more often and gather? There's tons of different thoughts out there for it. But absolutely, I think of medical professions all the time because I think you're having to solve problems so quickly, make decisions, on your feet that are life and death, like you said. I think that's super creative.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I think a lot of people only think of creativity as art or artistic endeavors, but like Katie's saying, in all the empirical research about creativity, the way it's measured, it has to be an objective, measurable
It's such a
thing.
scientific view of it.
Yeah, but it is. It's how quickly can you problem solve? How many unique solutions can you come up with in a given amount of time? How different are the solutions? There's all these ways to measure it, but I think you're right. You're right on. People think, well, no, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And yet I'm problem solving all day, every day to keep people alive. That's a pretty big dichotomy.
Sure, yeah. Maybe not to keep people alive, but to
it's not your goal.
to handle the the challenges of the day. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, I've watched House, okay? I know.
Yes.
I haven't.
You haven't.
I was in Stuart Little. He was Stuart Little's dad.
Oh, you're kidding. He has a new show, too, that's really kind of good but weird about multiple personalities. Anyway, it's an interesting conversation, and it's just one I'm well aware that not everybody's going to agree with me, but I really like pointing to things that unite us rather than separate us. So I'm really looking for ways that people aren't just kind of pointing fingers at each other well, you're an artist and you do this, and I've got this job, and, stuff like that. I really think creativity is one less thing that divides us. I really think humans are more creative than they give themselves credit for.
It was brave of you to disagree with yourself on our podcast.
I'm going to have to listen to it, and then I'll get back to you to see if I agree with me disagreeing.
Cool. Okay, so to change direction a little, is there something in your life right now that you're pursuing that seems really scary to you?
No, but I should be. Yeah. So I worked at a local hospital for 5 years and worked all over. Worked in the cath lab. I worked in the float pool, going to different units and just helping out, each day a different unit. The place where I was working was your typical short-staffed hospital, and it was still a corporation that I felt would just let people go or didn't really value the employee that well. And so a year and a half ago, I got on at the local VA. In our region, it is the leading employer, and there's a union, and so it's fantastic. It's got great benefits, but the only place I get on, I felt like I have a wide variety or wide background, working all over the hospital, but even it's so competitive to get on at the VA. The only place I could get in was on a rehab unit, which is not in the hospital. It's not working with sick people. So we get, hips and knees. They've had surgery 5 days ago, and now they just need therapy. Or someone's got a big wound that's infected, and they've gone to surgery and they've cut out all the infection and now they just need 6 weeks of antibiotics. So it's a lot different from what I have been doing and what I really liked doing. But it's not where I want to be. It's not what I want to keep doing. So I have a great boss, and it's easy. It's boring. So I'm at that point now where it's like, okay, we gotta figure out what's next.
Yeah, it sounds comfortable.
It's very comfortable.
Okay, so to people who maybe, aren't at a comfortable place and they hear that and they're like, well, he's comfortable. Like, why wouldn't he stay there? Like, so what are some reasons like pushing you to like, you need to push yourself and go to something else?
Sure. Right. Like I've got a great job. I've got great benefits. I've got a good boss. I get along with my coworkers. Why aren't you happy there? Well, I don't feel like I'm helping enough. I don't feel like I'm doing enough for my background. I should be making a bigger difference. And really, like, these guys come and they're the biggest thing that I can do for them outside of, administer some antibiotics or do some wound care is talk to them, because they're there for 6 weeks and it's just boring. Well, I think that that's very important. We can talk a lot about like what's there to be gained from talking to an older generation, but that's not like what I was trained to do. That's not what I went to school to do. It's not my experience. And
it's reminding me of what you said a little bit about AT&T that, it's great. I'm helping as much as I can in this position, but somebody else can do this. You want to do something that only you can do, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't phrase it that way. But yes, I want to be more proactive in stamping out illness.
That's a commercial, right?
Well, I had one doctor that would always say that. I was like, how's it going, Dr. Garrison? Just stamping out illness. That's great.
Wow. I love it.
He said it sarcastically, but he did. He definitely did. You talk to a lady that has kids and she'll tell you that the nurse makes or breaks the birth. Mm. And as someone who has been, I've got 2 kids and I've gone through that from my end of it, I could see like how important or how helpful it was. And when I was going into nursing or when I was taking prerequisites going into nursing, that was really my mindset. Like, I want to be the person that makes or breaks the experience, So I don't feel like I'm doing that where I'm at. And I would like to do that more.
Well, there's something to be said for pushing yourself too, and we talk about that a lot. It's like, I think with any job, it's like you are learning and growing and figuring out what you're doing. And then you get to a certain place where that's super easy, right? And you could do it in your sleep. And so it's like, do you just stay there? Do you just stay stagnant? Or do you like challenge yourself to learn something new, and like you're saying, like, I know I would be good at this. So like, why wouldn't I, reach for that?
Right. It's like you want to reach your full potential. And if you feel like you've arrived, then it's not your full potential.
And even, like someone that's a mastery at their fields, day in and day out, they're rising to the challenge of whatever it is they're doing. So
yeah.
Even if you are reaching that full potential, right? Like the satisfaction comes from meeting those challenges and saying, okay, like someone who's been an ICU nurse for 20 years and they know what's going on. They know everything, quote unquote. Like, are they pushing themselves? Absolutely. They're meeting the challenges of the day full blast.
I think that's also not to say that everyone has to change jobs or change positions or climb a ladder or something. Like, it occurs to me too, as you say that the challenges of working in the ICU after you've already been there 20 years might be different challenges than when you're first starting out.
Yeah, that's where it's kind of, you start a new job. So I've been in this job a year and a half and there's a whole different culture to learn. How are they doing things? And I haven't been on like the rehab side of it. So learning that, and right about this time, you're like, okay, I can do this job. I know what's going on. So it's time to go to find something else. Yeah.
Nice.
You say nice. I say, God, that sounds terrible. It's scary.
That's the point.
It is the point. But when you can do it, right, and you go through, you stop and say, hey, you just did this. Like, you did this thing. You've gone through this process. Why not? Why are you afraid to do it again?
Yeah. And that's a really good point. Yeah. Like, you know you can do it. You know it's going to be hard, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Interesting. What advice would you give someone who's maybe scared to take the first step or the next step in pursuing their passion?
I tell people, or my kids, or new students, or new nurses, of course you're going to be bad at this. This is the first time you've done it. Why would you be good at something the first time you did it?
Amen.
Yep.
I hate to quote Adventure Time, but but I do. I said, sucking at something is the first step at being kind of okay at it.
I love
And
it.
it's the truth. Yeah. Why would you expect to be good at it? Here, we're going to go in here, we're going to screw this up, then we're going to talk about how you screwed it up, and then we'll do it better.
Love it.
It's a necessary step.
It's crazy how necessary. I also tell my students in reference to failure, the creators of Angry Birds, they have I don't care money, right? Like, I want you to name something that you can buy that you can't get Angry Birds printed on it. Like food packaging, underwear, toys, lunchbox, clothes, like, it's everywhere. Angry Birds got bought out by Microsoft for billions of dollars.
Wow.
And it started as, a $1 iPhone game.
Yeah.
But the creators of Angry Birds had 53 previous failed games that didn't do anything.
Wow.
53,
Were they
amazing.
Were they all angry?
They were not. You see, it was Happy Birds. It didn't do very well at all. People couldn't relate. No one could. But that's what I tell when I have students, I'm like, listen, just fail. Don't be afraid. You're going to do it. It's going to happen. That's the difference.
Love it. I listened to the podcast, How I Built This, the guy who started Patagonia, like the woman who started Spanx, like all these super successful business people. This wasn't their first business. Like they've been bankrupt. Like they failed in every way you could imagine. And then they chose to start again. And like, I think that's the lesson. It's like, you can sit home and say, man, I failed 53 times. I'm a screw up, or you can like start the next one that's going to be a huge success.
Right.
Yeah. Like keep working at the grindstone. You think like all these famous musicians, is this the first band that they've been in? Right. Like,
yeah. All the overnight successes that, have been touring in their minivan for 20 years,
Right.
Why are we surprised that they're succeeding? They've been doing this for 20 years.
Right.
As far as like going into nursing, I tell, I'm talking to students and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I can't do this. And I just tell them, I'm like, listen, I got a divorce in nursing school. If I can get through it with no scientific background, being a horrible student and the emotional train wreck of that, anyone can do it. Like, you got it made. It's easy sailing for you.
Yeah.
I love it. It's true.
Yeah, it is true.
It's doable.
It's doable. There's a way.
Love it.
Yay. Do you want to plug yourself online, or do you want to remain a mystery?
I don't care. I just feel like it's kind of boring. I'm kind of boring online.
You're a cat rescuer.
Yeah, people throw kittens at you.
I haven't put a photo of that online, So.
You should.
Also, if you want to be on other podcasts.
Yes, people could contact me to be on other podcasts. That was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, you can. My Instagram is just my name, Justin Farrey. It's spelled Farrey.
Perfect.
It's not perfect. It's a weird name.
So find you on Instagram.
Yeah, you can see how boring it is. Bike photos and poison ivy. My eye was so swollen. My eye was swollen shut.
Oh no.
That's the most recent photo. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll think about adding some of the cats.
Yeah.
Anna will follow you.
Yeah. I post a lot of cats.
Prepare for mediocrity, Anna.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
It was nice meeting you.
Very nice meeting you.
Thanks so much for joining us for this interview. Our last episode of 2018 is coming up next week. Don't want to miss it. Also, remember to check out our new single, Close, on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere you listen to music. If you've enjoyed this podcast, share it with a friend or post about your scary thing and tag us on social media. See you next week. Everyone's going to be like, who is this fellow?
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what's going to happen.
They'll be like, what was that? Farrey?
They're going to be like, what was that in the background? Why is that playing music? That's what they're going to be like.